Hi, I'm Crystal. I'm one of the forensic interviewers here. I want to welcome you to Mission Kids, and I'm going to just take you back to show you the room. We definitely try to emphasize when they come here that it is not their fault, that they're not in trouble. Our interview rooms are set up to be more appropriate, more friendly. We have like comfortable chairs. There's a pillow in there. Sometimes the kids hug the pillow.
When I first started working in the field of child welfare and victim services, unfortunately there wasn't such a thing as child advocacy centers. And so we had children wanting to come forward and tell their story, but unfortunately had a really difficult time doing that because they unfortunately got questioned multiple times, maybe at school, and then have to go to an ER, and then might have to go to a specialist and tell their story, and go to the police station and tell their story to a police officer. Unfortunately, children had to tell their story to too many people, too many times. Child advocacy centers allow children to have one really child-friendly place to tell their story. And so they come into Mission Kids, and we have a team of professionals who are watching the interview as it's going on. And so we have law enforcement, prosecutor, child welfare, mental health professionals, and pediatricians kind of here to respond to that child abuse allegation. And then we have an interviewer in the room with the child so they can tell their story one time to a professional who's very well trained in how to make children feel comfortable, supported, and ask questions that are developmentally appropriate for them.
Human trafficking of minors is child rape. That's really hard to hear. What's also very hard to hear is that the number one consumers of trafficking victims are Americans. Mission Kids in Montgomery County, we only provide direct services to children and families in Montgomery County. We've seen close to 24 victims of trafficking in Montgomery County that we have served at our center. The statistics on trafficking and the methodology used to figure out how much of it there is, none of those research reports are really accurate at this point. What we do think that we understand is that 50% of the time at least, trafficking victims enter as minors. They have histories of child sexual abuse and very often have come out of the foster care system. Mission Kids has been awarded the only grant in the Commonwealth to facilitate the development of policies and procedures to respond to human trafficking victims. And the idea is that once we develop them with these close collaborations with all of our team members, that these policies and procedures are going to be replicated across the state of Pennsylvania.
Why we're really looking and needing support from our community at Mission Kids is really to expand our services. We were able to provide services to 600 children and their family members last year, but we still have a ways to go. We're hoping to expand prevention education so that we see less children come through our doors. We want to prevent child abuse from the first place. We also want to help expand child advocacy centers across the nation as well as the world to be able to, it doesn't matter where your child is abused, that they have the same exact services and response, the best practices that they deserve. Mission Kids really is an independent nonprofit that relies on the support of our community. And luckily we've had generous people who said we're going to stand up against child abuse and ensure that children who are ready to tell their story and brave enough to talk about child abuse, we are here to respond and to ensure that they're getting the services they need and deserve. But we're also making sure offenders who commit these crimes are held accountable in Montgomery County, and so that we know that that is not okay. Child abuse should not be happening in Montgomery County.
People will say to me, you know, I'm afraid to report it because what if I'm wrong? What is it doing to that adult if I make the wrong report? And I always like to turn it around and say, well, what are you doing to that child if you don't report it and you're right? If you're wrong, it won't go anywhere. It'll be fine, and you know that child is protected.
When parents call here at Mission Kids and say, if this was your child, what would you do? I can honestly say, if I had a child who was abused, I would bring them to Mission Kids.